today. So we'll continue on with Happy Baby having a happy dream. And welcome to Miracles on High Plains. I'm your host, Jonaca. Our reader today is David W. David?
Prepare you now for the undoing of what never was. If you already understood the difference between truth and illusion, the atonement would have no meaning. The holy instant, the holy relationship, the Holy Spirit's teaching, and all the means by which salvation is accomplished would have no purpose, for they are all but aspects of the plan to change your dreams of fear to happy dreams, from which you waken easily to knowledge. Put yourself not in charge of this, for you cannot distinguish between advance and retreat. Some of your greatest advances you have judged as failures, and some of your deepest retreats you have evaluated as success.
Mm-hmm. So this starts out with a humble note, which is stating that we really, in our confusion, do not understand the difference between truth and illusion. Well, that might be a surprise to a lot of people that we don't understand the difference between what's true and what's not true. In fact, if we did understand that, we wouldn't need the holy instant or the holy relationship or the Holy Spirit's teachings, because all would be clear. So those things wouldn't be necessary. So count it as a blessing that we start out at square one, admitting we do not understand, and that with that as acknowledged that we are starting from lack of clarity, now we can prepare for the undoing of all illusions, illusions that never were. And know that the interference all comes, well, let's set that aside for a moment. Here's the other thing. All aspects of this plan of salvation involve changing our illusions of fear, our dreams of fear, into happy dreams, which lead naturally to the final ultimate estate we call knowledge. So we're transitioning from an interpretation of life as fearful and chaotic to a different interpretation, one that's offered by the Holy Spirit, an interpretation that's based on heavenly insight and understanding of the laws of heaven. Those are what we will call happy dreams. And all that is not a final state. That's just to bring us into tranquility. And then in our happy dream state or tranquil state, we're ready to awaken to knowledge. We are not in charge of this process. The Holy Spirit has the plan. All we need to do is provide a willingness to be guided by her wisdom, her voice, her strength. And all we need to do is give our little willingness over to her. Let's go on.
Never approach the holy instant after you have tried to remove all fear and hatred from your mind. That is its function. Never attempt to overlook your guilt before you ask the Holy Spirit's help. That is his function. Your part is only to offer him a little willingness to let him remove all fear and hatred and to be forgiven. On your little faith, joined with his understanding, he will build your part in the atonement and make sure that you fulfill it easily. And with him, you will build a ladder planted in the solid rock of faith, rising even to heaven, nor will you use it to ascend to heaven alone.
Mm-hmm. So everything you need to know about having the experience we call the holy instant will be provided. We will be instructed. We're being instructed right here. Part of that instruction is about when you should turn to the Holy Spirit. Why would we have to be taught to not do it after we've tried it on our own to remove fear and hatred from our mind? Why would we need to be reminded not to turn to the Holy Spirit after we have attempted to overlook our own guilt before we ask the Holy Spirit? It's kind of a rhetorical question. It's because there's a tendency of the ego to want to leap forward, even in moments that require healing. The ego is apt to speak first and say, I'll show you the way. And so keep in mind that the Holy Spirit wants you to bring your misunderstanding, your confusion, your sense of guilt, and your fear to her, not noodle on it, figure out what you're going to do with it, and then offer your plan over to the Holy Spirit. And so there's a timing issue there. You can think of it as a sequence thing. The minute you feel a loss of peace, the onset of anxiety and fear or guilt, right away notice that and say, there it is. I'm giving it to you, Holy Spirit. With before the analysis and the storytelling and the exploration of all that goes on in your mind. And if you do that, then you are teaming and partnering with the Holy Spirit. You're now joining in the Holy Spirit's plan and purpose. And when you do that, it allows you to build a ladder based on your faith in her guidance, a ladder that ascends upward out of the confusion and guilt of judgment and time and into the more illuminated state that Holy Spirit's teachings offer us. Sandra?
The Holy Spirit is such a comforter because I would be spending, I've spent years in depression, cranking. I call it cranking. My head was trying to figure it out and to understand what was going on and how to fix it. And the Holy Spirit took all that away from me. All I have to do is turn it over. When I catch that thought of judgment, I just have to turn it over. And when I turn it over, then I can go do my life and enjoy. Just a matter of turning it over and really turning it over. Because there's been moments when I thought I turned it over, but then it came back right away. So I knew I didn't turn it over. So it's just being diligent with whenever I'm judging, I know And I'm judging, all judgments come from my needs, what I think I need not being met. All judgment comes from what I think I need is not being met. And that's what makes me judge. So turning it over to the Holy Spirit gives me that space where I can um, reconnoiter and find a way to meet my needs without seeking outside myself. And really, my only need is to commune with my Creator and to trust that my Creator has a plan, and it's a good one. It's guaranteed. I'm complete.
Beautiful. So Sandra used the word cranking. Beware of the tendency for the mind to crank and crank and crank and dwell on issues that the ego wants you to wrestle with for hours. So there's that side. I want to point out one other subtle point here, which is in the line, never attempt to overlook your guilt before you ask the Holy Spirit's help. So let's I'll want to role play here real quickly of what it might be when I attempt to overlook my own guilt before asking for I'm not following this advice, but I'm going to do it on my own. So a thought comes across my mind for which some wrong was done. Maybe in this case, it's my wrong or somebody else's wrong. It really doesn't matter. In my mind, I've judged wrong was done. Therefore, there's guilt that has been assigned. And that thought, here was 1 minute I was at peace, and now all that just crossed my mind. There it is. And you know how it feels. It's an invitation to start cranking on it. Well, there's three possible outcomes now. One is I can take the bait and start on cranking. I know how to reinforce this judgment. It's occurred to me before. I've got it down. And now I'm really dwelling on it. That's one outcome we want to be cautious of. The other one is equally ill-advised, and that is for me to attempt to repress it and just put it out of my, no Holy Spirit's involved. I'm just going to distract myself with something else, as if that guilty thought had never arisen. Well, that is never attempt to overlook guilt before you ask the Holy Spirit's help. That is Holy Spirit's function. So what we are advised to do when the guilt arises, recognize it. Oh, well, there's a guilty thought. There's an invitation to crank. No, thank you. Holy Spirit, I'm asking for your help here because I know I could easily be pulled into this, but I'm asking for your help to be free. So I point that out because repressing the thoughts is just another form of managing it on your own. And we don't want to do that and believe that we're following this program. This program, in all instances, involves turning to the Holy Spirit in the recognition that she has the power to heal our mind. All right, we'll go on.
Through your holy relationship, reborn and blessed in every holy instant, you do not arrange, thousands will rise to heaven with you. Can you plan for this? Or could you prepare yourself for such a function? Yet it is possible because God wills it, nor will he change his mind. The means and purpose both belong to him. You have accepted one, the other will be provided. A purpose such as this, without the means, is inconceivable. He will provide the means, anyone who shares his purpose.
So this is actually picks up a thread that was in the previous section on the little willingness. And that is also a warning there not to make our own arrogant preparations for the holy instant. So those of you that read the previous section recently might recall that we were told that there's nothing we can do to precipitate a holy instant, that it's a gift from Spirit, who recognizes the opportunities when they arise. And so there's nothing we can add. And so a holy instance that you do not arrange are the only ones that Spirit has guidance and control over. The holy instance you do not arrange. You think about the opposite of that. All right, I'm going to make a holy instant happen here. I'm going to bring about a moment of flash from heaven, and everybody's going to feel perfectly forgiven and whole and complete. I'm going to make that happen. Well, that's what we call arrogant preparations for the holy instant. So I think it's pretty easy to recognize. So on the big picture, it's easy to recognize we can't do that. But on the little picture, many times we try just the same to get ourselves ready for a holy instant. Can you plan for this? No, you cannot. So here's the bigger point. If you are willing to join with the Holy Spirit on her purpose to bring about healing to everyone, that's the goal, that's the purpose. You agree to the goal with her, you join her in that goal, and then all the details that are needed to make that happen are in her charge. Because you've agreed to the goal, it's her resourcefulness, it's her divine awareness that makes all the details possible. So he will provide the means to anyone who shares his purpose. This is a major theme, by the way, to extend what we're saying here. This is a major theme in A Course in Miracles, that always you are responsible for deciding for yourself where it is you're going with your life. What is it you want? And when you join the Holy Spirit and you say, I want to be a part of your plan, Holy Spirit, then there is a benefit that comes from that, which are the details. We call it the means for bringing about that plan. She engages in making sure all the means are provided. That includes the people, the timing, the words that you might be given to. So it's that prayer in the workbook lesson. I think it's workbook 77. Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to who? She provides those details as long as you keep your eyes here's a saying, keep your eyes on the prize, which is the Holy Spirit's plan to bring healing to yourself and everyone involved. So it's a principle of heaven that if you agree to do the will of God, then the means needed for the steps along the way will be gifted to you. This is also consistent with the lesson, I need do nothing. You agree to do the participate in the plan, but you don't need to then scramble and put the plan together. I need do nothing but listen for guidance. And I will be told where to go, what to do, who to speak to, and what to say. So the reason why we need to learn this is because it's a complete reversal of what the ego wants to do. And get out in front, remain in charge, and be the arbiter of what should be done next. We'll go on. David, you're muted.
Happy dreams come true, not because they are dreams, but only because they are happy, and so they must be loving. Their message is, thy will be done, and not, I want it otherwise. The alignment of means and purpose is an undertaking impossible for you to understand. You do not even realize you have accepted the Holy Spirit's purpose as your own, and you would merely bring unholy means to its accomplishment. The little faith it needed to change the purpose is all that is required to receive the means and use them.
Mm-hmm. So we're obviously still talking about what we mentioned in the previous paragraph about agreeing to the purpose and the means will be provided. It's here technically referred to as the alignment of means and purpose. And how that's done, how the Holy Spirit manages to bring the people, the places, and the things and the timing together is not something that we need to spend time questioning. How does spirit arrange for healing to occur? That's not our role to elaborate on how she gets it done. We do have a role there, but that's not it. Because if we try to figure out how healing is going to occur, that's an invitation to the ego to bring its unholy plans into the Holy Spirit's purpose. We read about that yesterday. The ego wants to bring its methods in to the Holy Spirit's purpose. So our role is to come with empty hands and open hearts. The little faith, just a little faith, a little willingness is needed to change the purpose. That's all that's required. Everything else is gifted to us. So this is a lesson in learning to receive the gifts. Sandra?
Oh, this is so good, Jonaca, because I had no faith and trust in anything. And when I realized what the benefits were from having faith and trust in the Holy Spirit, I said, okay, I'm going to try it. I'll just see if it's going to work. And it did. I'm complete.
It did. And in fact, that's the one proof we get with Course in Miracles is our own experience in applying it to our lives. And I'd submit that's the strongest proof that you can find is it's your own life. It happened. It worked. I believe it. Anything else is a theory or a statement of somebody else's experience is not nearly as powerful as having the experience yourself. Okay, so means and purpose, the alignment of means and purpose, don't try to understand it, just bring your faith to it. Holy Spirit will provide the details.
It is no dream to love as yourself, nor is your holy relationship a dream. All that remains of dream in it is that it is still a special relationship. Yet it is very useful to the Holy Spirit, who has a special function here. It will become the happy dream through which he can spread joy to thousands on thousands who believe that love is fear, not happiness. Let him fulfill the function that he gave to your relationship by accepting it for you, and nothing will be wanting that would make of it what he would have it be.
Mm-hmm. So in our reading now, we're shifting to you have now been recruited on Team Holy Spirit to participate in her plan for bringing healing to all relationships without exception. You've now been recruited. And so that involves loving your brother as yourself. It involves what we broadly refer to as holy relationships with everyone. Now, that would be what we would say the final outcome where everyone is loved. We're not saying that's the starting point. We want to begin with the people nearest to us that we're relating to and let go and forgive all our judgments of them, reestablish holy relationships with them, and then work our way out. But ultimately, the Holy Spirit is not finished until it includes everyone. And so this is what we call the happy dream. This is the topic of the reading we have today, is to shift from whatever you thought your life was about, the way you had defined it on your terms, whatever meaning you gave it, whatever narrative there was, to relinquish that narrative and adopt another narrative that the Holy Spirit has written for you. Being recruited to be a willing participant in her plan for bringing love to the world. It's a version of your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. It's you're being recruited to this bigger plan, and which will heal you, which will heal your relationships with others. And that process scaled up brings healing to the world, which is Holy Spirit's will not rest until it's brought everywhere. So let the Holy Spirit fulfill the function that Spirit gave to your relationships, that they should become holy. Let Spirit fulfill your function by accepting it for yourself, and all the means will be given. Nothing will be wanting that would make of it what he would have it be. Nothing will be lacking. I call it the complete package. Humorously, It reminds me of an all-inclusive vacation, if you've ever participated in that. It's like you pay one price and you get everything is taken care of. You don't have to reach into your wallet anymore in an all-inclusive vacation. Well, sorry for the analogy, but the Holy Spirit's plan is an all-inclusive plan. Once you agree that you're on board, everything needed will be provided. Nothing will be wanting because Holy Spirit has infinite resources available to her. And just as an aside, can you imagine having 1 billion angels at your call? How that could make a difference? That was an aside. All right, we'll go on.
When you feel the holiness of your relationship is threatened by anything, stop instantly and offer the Holy Spirit your willingness, in spite of fear, to let Him exchange this instant for the Holy One that you would rather have. He will never fail in this. But forget not that your relationship is one. And so it must be that whatever threatens the peace of one is an equal threat to the other. The power of joining, its blessing, lies in the fact that it is now impossible for you or your brother to experience fear alone, or to attempt to deal with it alone. Never believe that this is necessary or even possible. Yet, just as this is impossible, so is it equally impossible that the holy instant come to either of you without the other. And it will come to both at the request of either.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot here. I think of in this section, this is probably the paragraph that one would easily spend the most time in an attempt to understand the truth. So I'm going to pause on this for a moment. We've emphasized many times before, the minute you feel the threat. So I maintain that as you practice forgiveness and learn to invite peace into your life, that you have a sensitivity to chaos and threat and fear, that you become more sensitive to recognizing when those things arise in your mind. In other words, they don't just arise and go without you noticing it. They arise and you recognize it. Oh my goodness, that is really jolting. That makes me uncomfortable. When you feel that threat, the big lesson is stop instantly. Don't continue onward. To use Sandra's language, don't begin to crank on that. Oh, if that happens, then this is going to happen, and the next thing, and the world's going to fall apart. Don't start cranking, nor don't repress it as if it didn't happen. Stop instantly and offer the Holy Spirit your willingness in spite of the fear. We're not out of the fear yet, but we're asking for help to let the Holy Spirit exchange this instant for the Holy One you would rather have. Heather, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just was like the threatened by anything. I just was thinking of Sandra's words about my judgment. As soon as I make any kind of judgment, I like this, I don't like this, I don't like the, whatever the judgment is, then that's when I need to stop instantly and offer that to the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. and recognize those things. Just a quick aside, it was, I think last week, it was some very insignificant encounter, and immediately, like a very nasty judgment came to my mind towards someone that I didn't even know their name. I just immediately attached a nasty gram to them. And then I noticed it right away, that had just happened, and immediately laughed at it, and gave it up to the Holy Spirit, and was over. So stop instantly. Do not invest further using the power of your mind. Do not give more power to those feelings of threat. Noel?
It seems so simple. Stop instantly. It's not that simple often. And it's not only my relationship with anyone else, or present or not, but with myself and with my past, and all the judgments and all the guilt and all the stuff that goes with it. I think you're right. I have experienced too a greater sensitivity, at least to my own judgments and fears. And so the stop instantly deserves a banner, really. And then just turn it over. What would you have me do? It seems so simple, as I said, and it's worth, to me, practicing all the time.
It is indeed. I've labeled that practice, Noel, the divine pause. It's making room for God by stopping the ego in its tracks and pausing so that we can ask. This is completely off the side, but Noel, is the background scene taken from that courtyard in Sedona, in downtown Sedona?
No, it's a Greek village.
So there's a courtyard in Sedona.
It's a Greek village.
Greek village? Okay, great, great.
Somewhere.
I'm always trying to place these. Noel comes up with some of the most interesting backgrounds. And I find it very enjoyable. I want to bring us back to something that I think is harder to understand here, because this plan for the Holy Spirit involves your relationships with other people. So by definition, this is not about you alone. This is about you in relationship to another. And when you feel a threat, that creates a barrier to experiencing the holy instant in the relationship. But also, this is the threat that you feel is also an equal threat to the other. And so I can only express this from my own experience. When I was feeling really uncomfortable about how I and another person had left it before, or where we're at, the other person feels it too. They're not blind to that. And so it's a relationship, and it needs to, we experience these things together. It's now impossible for you or your brother to experience fear alone, or to attempt to deal with it alone. This is not necessary or possible that it should be only it's a relationship. So if it's off balance for one, it's off balance for the other. And so it's also, it's a principle. It's equally impossible that the holy instant could come to either one of you without the other. Okay, so holy instants are experienced together or not at all. And here's the real clincher. The holy instant will come to both of you at the request of either. In a moment where we feel a sense of threat, the holy instant will come to both at the request of either. This will be hopefully elaborated on in the next paragraph because it kind of leaves us there. Really? That'll happen? David?
Whoever is saner at the time the threat is perceived should remember how deep is his indebtedness to the other and how much gratitude is due him, and be glad he can pay his debt by bringing happiness to both. Let him remember this and say, I desire this holy instant for myself, that I may share it with my brother, whom I love. It is not possible that I can have it without him, or he without me. Yet it is wholly possible for us to share it now. And so I choose this instant as the one to offer to the Holy Spirit, that his blessing may descend on us and keep us both in peace.
Mm-hmm. And so this is, we said before that once you decide to join the Holy Spirit in her plan for bringing healing, all the instructions you need will be given you. And they're being given right here. Particularly where you need instructions is when you feel threatened or lack of peace, fear starts to creep in. What do you do then? Well, this is very clear, is you follow the guidance given in this paragraph. So I think this is so important, I would like to give you an assignment. This is take home. It has to do with this paragraph here. To look at it again, to read over it, to peer deeper into your own heart and soul about what it means and what it would be like to practice this, and then look for an opportunity to implement this practice in the next 24 hours when you feel a relationship threatened in some way. That's where it is applicable to. Doesn't mean the person has to be standing in front of you. Oftentimes they're not. But the thought comes to you and a dis-ease towards the other person for whatever reason arises in your mind. Well, there's the threat. And here's how we are advised to respond. Heather?
Yeah, I'm just thinking how we should make this our new marriage ceremony instead of the old one. Death do us part in the whole thing. This is great. This would be so much more advanced.
All right, well, we might need a little time to get there, but I think that's a good direction. I'm in favor of that. Notice how this really involves some willingness on someone's part to ask for help and the responsibility for that initiative is given to the one who is saner at the time. And I would don't get caught up in a big judgment about that. If you're feeling sane enough to ask the Holy Spirit for guidance, then you're sane enough to initiate the request. The other person, and maybe that would be yourself, might not even have thought of it at all. Noel, this comes back to the divine pause, to not start cranking on the fear, but instead pause, and that's a sane pause to ask for help. And notice also that it begins with a note of gratitude. That this relationship between you and the other person is something that we're grateful for the opportunity to have them in our lives and for them to be a force for healing. It doesn't mean that you like everything they've done or do, but that they're bringing you to this moment where you're asking for help shows that in the Holy Spirit's view, they're your teacher in that moment, because they're reminding you to pause and ask for help and seek healing again. So in that sense, they're in your life for a reason. So practice gratitude, and that know that we heal together at the request of either member. Healing comes to both. And I don't believe that it's necessary to memorize these words, but to read over them a few times and to get a sense for the intentionality, the heart and soul of it is enough. And then your own words will suffice, will be just fine. It's not really okay, here, this might come as a shock. The Holy Spirit doesn't need your words. She knows what's in your heart before you even can figure out what word to put on it. Words can be helpful as symbols and representations, but it's not limited in any way to words, but where the desire of your heart. And so it's about choosing this instant to be as one and receive the blessings of the Holy Spirit. So that's a simple practice. And I, by faith, believe that in the next 24 hours, someone will occur to you where this would be helpful, where you could apply this. Opportunities to apply it are abundant. And so all you have to do is be on the lookout, recognize those feelings of threat that come up, and then practice the divine pause, stop for a moment, and turn to the Holy Spirit and share this prayer. So that's as far as we're going to read today. We had two folks visiting, Sean, who's been here before, and Corrine Walden. I'm wondering if that's the Corrine Walden that I remember from Skillman, New Jersey, but I could be off on that. But just wanted you to know that we have several meetings each week. And you're welcome to join on any or all of them. Noel?
On the holy instant, would you say something about either comparing or contrasting the holy instant with myself and the holy instant with another?
Yeah. So by definition, a holy, So there's a number of forms of spiritual communication, Noel. The one that we call that is involved in relationships between two or more, when we open to heavenly blessing, that's an invitation to a holy relate instant. If you're by yourself and communicating to God, we might call that prayer. Or if you're hearing the voice of God by yourself, we might call that revelation. These are other forms of spiritual communication. They do not invalidate the holy instant or prayer or revelation. They are simply other avenues, other channels of communication are engaged. This is one of the special topics. Altogether, there are 7 forms of spiritual communication, or I've chosen to group the forms in the Course of Miracles into 7 different groups. You could choose to group them differently, but gratitude is one of them. So that person doesn't have to be here. As a matter of fact, just to give an example, I was both of my parents have passed on from this world. And I was just feeling gratitude today for especially my young adult, my young life up until age 20 or so, just feeling grateful that while they did not have a lot of resources available to them, they did the best they could. And what more can you ask of anybody but to do the best you can? And I was just feeling grateful to them. That's a form of opening one's heart and soul in gratitude towards another. It doesn't matter where their soul is located. Anyway, this is a long answer to your question, Noel. I hope maybe I'm just babbling. If I didn't answer it, please ask
No,
it again.
not at all. So I can have holy instance with myself and or with Holy Spirit, right? I mean,
We would call that.
Yeah.
So these are just word labels. We would label that as a Holy Spirit instruction or prayer. So again, don't be concerned about the labels so much. They all count for good. Whether you're talking to the Holy Spirit, to the Christ mind, to the Father, to a brother, to your angels, all counts for good. The terms we attach to those different communications, if we were to be a bit technical, we do have different terms, but it's not fundamentally necessary that one understand those terms that are used. The important part is that you make effort to communicate. Matter of fact, let me emphasize it again. When all is said and done, your willingness to communicate spiritually to the Father, the Son, the Spirit, your brothers, your angels, who have I forgotten? Your willingness to initiate that and be open to it is what matters. That's the expression of your will.
Thank you. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's as far as we're going to go today. I want to thank Brother David for reading and remind you of your assignment to look at that paragraph again and be alert to recognizing an opportunity for you to apply it to someone who crosses your mind or who crosses your path, and to remember when threat arises to take a divine pause and ask the Holy Spirit for help. you can guarantee that she will respond. All right. Thank you, my friends. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, David. Thank you, John.